Welcome to the Polaris Connection, the podcast that lights the way for families of autistic and neurodivergent children. I am your host, Brad Broyles, and each week we will sit down with industry experts, therapists, teachers, and more to bring you the most current insight, support, and hope. Whether you're navigating a new diagnosis or just need a reminder that you are not alone, this is your place to learn, grow, and connect. We are dedicated in connecting neurodivergent paths with purpose. Let's take this journey together, one conversation at a time. In today's episode, we are lucky and honored to sit down with Haley Palmer, who is the director of Starlight Behavior Academy in Mesa, Arizona. With over 11 years of experience in teaching and behavior therapy for autistic children, Haley brings a wealth of knowledge and heart to the conversation. From her roots in Chicago to her work across Arizona's public, private, and in-home education settings, Haley shares how her passion for play-based learning has shaped her approach. We explore her leadership journey and belief in building independence through collaboration and the joy she finds in helping students grow. We are excited to connect with the inspiring educator for autistic children and a powerful advocate for fun in learning. Haley Palmer, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Wow, that was one of the best introductions I've ever had.
Well, very well deserved. I'm excited to have you here. I know our listeners are going to be very excited to have you here. Haley, tell us a little bit more about yourself. You say you're from Chicago.
Yeah.
What part did you grow up in Chicago?
So I grew up in a little town called Elmwood Park. When I say grow up, I moved here when I was in 6th grade. So I've actually been in Arizona longer than I lived in Chicago, but it does have a special place in my heart, and sometimes the accent still surfaces.
It does. So everybody wants to know, Chicago Cubs or Chicago White Sox?
So my family is actually torn. My dad is completely White Sox, but a lot of my family loves the Cubs. And
oh, okay.
I will say that I am a Cubbies fan.
Well,
you
do. Well, good. Well, I mean, being here in Arizona, we have the Chicago Cubs spring training here, so I'm sure that you go to them, whenever you can.
Yes, we love going to those games.
Well, wonderful, Haley. We are so excited to have you. So let's talk about today we're going to talk about early childhood intervention and what does that look like, how that is. Can you tell us a little bit of your history? How did you get involved in early childhood education? And what is early childhood education?
Yeah, so for the first question, I got involved in early childhood education. I was always that teenager that was babysitting for everyone on my block. And so my weekends kind of always started with babysitting. And so I was like, I would love to be a teacher one day. And so I graduated high school and went straight into college with that in mind. And I started wanting to do elementary education. I did a service learning time with Red Mountain Center, and that was a special ed preschool, like a complete campus of just special ed preschool. And there was a little boy with autism in my first class. And him and I, we bonded. All it takes is just one little kiddo, and I applied to be a paraprofessional for a private autism school.
Oh, wow. Now, how old were you when this happened?
Yeah, I believe I was 19. When I made that transition to be a paraprofessional. Mind you, I had no background in autism. I kind of went in blind. And the first few weeks I was like, oh my goodness, am I doing this right? I was really in my head. And then after those couple of weeks, I could not see myself doing anything else. I tried general education. I did my student teaching in a general education, and that just solidified kind of my heart is definitely more in special ed and more with the littles and specifically autism.
Wow, that's amazing. So you sound like at an early age when you got into education, autism just kind of pulled at your heartstrings a little bit more.
It did.
Was there anything that you saw that you were able to deliver that really inspired you with working with little kids?
Yeah, just I didn't know the term for it at the time, but it was really that co-regulating piece. I didn't realize that's what I was doing when I was supporting these young learners when they first came into a school environment. And just picture it, a young learner coming into any new environment can be so scary, but then to have all those sensory sensitivities. And so just naturally, like getting down on their level and understanding just those sensory and language differences and giving them a voice. Every single day was so different, and it had its own challenges, but that just made like the small and big wins so much sweeter. Like, I live for those little moments, because for them those moments aren't very little.
They're big, as they're growing. And for those who don't know, what does that mean, co-regulated? What is
Yeah,
what
so
is it?
co-regulation, from what I've learned in this last year, I've done a really deep dive into co-regulation as a mom and as a teacher, honestly. And it's truly just kind of understanding how to regulate yourself so that you can be the calm in their storm. And so just staying neutral and being that person that is a safe space for learners, and just remaining that neutral area when they feel elevated, and kind of modeling a calm body, a calm just presence, and just being there. And it will look different for every learner, but one thing that, like, specific to my own kiddo, me not elevating when he's elevating, which can be tricky as a mom or as a teacher. And so just remaining calm and being that person that can be that safe space.
So when we talk about being elevated, what does that mean to be elevated?
Yeah, so it can look different for any kid. Some kiddos, well, they have the fight or flight, some freeze and fawn. And so for some kiddos, they scream and might be sensory overload and it could look like a tantrum.
Okay.
Some kiddos
So we call it more of like a tantrum that a kid would
or like
have.
an outburst, yes. But
Outburst,
other
okay.
kids will present dysregulation by, we always call it their turtle shell because we're littles. And they kind of like, just like that, go into their turtle shells. And those kiddos are also equally important to co-regulate with, because while it might not be so much in your face, they still need that support.
Gotcha. So when they elevate, early childhood intervention, we talk about if they elevate, then we as parents have to, you used a word, I forgot what word you used. Co-regulate, is that? Gotcha. So co-regulate is working with your child when they in a so-called outburst situation.
Yeah, and truly
So,
just following their lead. Sometimes it might mean that that kiddo just needs some space. He needs a break, or he or she needs a break. It's not always intervening. Sometimes less language is more, is what I've learned.
wow.
And providing that teachable moment after. So
Okay.
definitely keeping in mind that during the dysregulation is not the teachable moment. It's definitely the repair afterwards or long before.
So then with the repair, so that we're introducing our audience with a lot of new language. Folks, if you need to take out a pen and paper, go for it, because I know I got my notes already, Haley. I'm learning a lot. So let's kind of go through that again. So when a child, and this really could work with any child, is that
Yes.
correct? Not only autistic, is that correct?
Yeah, so
And
definitely learning your own like triggers or your own like regulation strategies that work for yourself is so key. And it's challenging because it can be very dysregulating to hear someone scream, or especially your own child, because you have that attachment. And so really just learning those skills for yourself. I always say I was always good at like helping others regulate, but I never really looked inward until this year to understand, oh, my regulation matters too. I can't co-regulate if I'm not regulated.
wow.
So it was really kind of a mind blow for me, because I had to actually list, oh, what does help me feel like centered and very namaste kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm a caretaker. When I come home, I'm a mom. Like, I'm making sure everyone else's needs are met, but really putting in the forefront that you can't, it's kind of like that air mask on a plane. Like, you can't support others without supporting yourself. And
Right.
just really, one thing that worked for me is a reminder in my phone. Because I can say it all day long, self-care, but until it's scheduled for me, I won't do it.
Well, that's really hard, and I think a lot of people can relate. It's like, hey, you need to regulate. Hey, you need to do this. You need to do this. But how often do we look at ourselves so that we're, in a way, regulated as well, so we can be at our best? If we can just kind of go back a little bit. So a child has an outburst. As a parent, and I know we're really jumping ahead, folks. We're going to wait for this a little bit later. We just kind of we just dove right in. So a child has an outburst. Autism definitely has one case or just another with another child. Then you're saying that when we want to work with them, when they're elevated, we need to. You used a word that we just kind of wait. And how does and I guess the word wait, but you used a different word. What term was that? You had like
repair.
a medical
It's always,
repair.
we focus heavily on repairing that connection afterwards. Because sometimes when a child is super dysregulated, they don't want, trust me, they don't want to be disruptive and they don't want to be destructive. So just reminding them, like, hey, I say it all the time, I still love you. I'm here for you when you're ready. And just kind of reducing the demand of, hey, you got to get it together kind of thing. Sometimes even like at a grocery store, you're like, okay, especially to my own son, I'm like, come on, let's just get through this. And it's like, people are staring, but really just kind of removing the demand of, okay, I'm here with you. I know this is really hard right now. When you're ready, I'm here to help you.
Yeah. That's very hard for parents because we want to jump in. We're just like, hey, stop it right now. Here
and
comes,
it's hard to see your baby in distress.
Yes.
You want your baby to feel safe. You want them to feel anything but dysregulated. But just coaching them through and knowing that, hey, we're going to start over. It's a new 10 minutes. It's a new day for school. Like, every day is a new day. Every 10 minutes is a new day sometimes. And we're going to get through it. And we still love you. And that doesn't go away.
So what are some tips or tricks or ideas that you have? Child is elevated. You really can't do much of repairing at that time. How's the best way for a parent to stay, I'm going to use the word calm or confident or regulate? I mean, how is the best way for a parent to do that?
Yeah, I think truly I'm all about preventative. And so parents know their kid best and they know what will dysregulate their child. So maybe just having a cozy space, having a safe item in the car, having a safe item always available, having a preferred item, even an iPad, where it's just like, hey buddy, I know this is hard right now, or just having something. First, we're gonna go to the grocery store, but hey, your iPad's in the car, like, we're gonna make it. And just being that safe person in all settings, like just building I'm trying to look at it through a teacher's lens and a mom lens.
Right.
And so for myself with my kiddo, we definitely focus on, like, hey, if you're starting to, we call it bubble over. If you're starting to bubble over, like, and that makes sense to him because it's like a pot that bubbles. Hey, these are some things we can do. This is long before the actual, like, dysregulation or outburst. But he knows he can take a break, and we always honor that. He knows that he can ask for help. So just teaching all those functional, and even just like the setting for like a school to like not eliminate, but reduce dysregulation. Lighting, sensory in just the classroom can reduce so much dysregulation, like Polaris and Starlight. This is the first setting I'm in where it's so intentional that we can dim the lights. We do have fidgets. We honor the asking for a break. We have so many safe spaces that are available to them that it's been really cool to just see, like, once they're comfortable in their school routine, we definitely don't see as many of those outbursts as what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I know people want to know, like, um, what is Polaris Academy, and how is that? And you're the director of Starlight Behavior Academy. What is the difference between the two?
Yeah, so Starlight focuses on early intervention, and that's typically between birth and age 3 when they get their evaluation, but can go up to age 8. We focus on blending the therapies, so ABA, speech, OT, all those therapies
Okay.
that typically come along with a diagnosis of autism, and school. And so my background is kind of in both, but I definitely wear more of a teacher hat. The classroom is where my heart is, but my background is in ABA and special education. And so really just merging the worlds of academics and therapies is truly what Starlight is.
Okay.
And it started mostly because my classroom this year, there were some students that came straight from therapy and some kiddos that did half or were in preschool, like early intervention preschool. And some of the kiddos that came straight from therapies really had a difficult time with just a classroom environment. There's so much stimuli in a classroom. And I think we counted one time. I think there's like 28 transitions just in the first 30 minutes. And
No
a
way.
transition can
20.
just be like, oh, hey, we're going from this chair to circle time. Oh, go put your backpack away. Oh, go put your folder over here. And so just think of how many transitions and demands there are in a classroom just naturally. It can be very overwhelming. And so Starlight is so intentional with introducing transitions, attending,
Okay.
playing, and regardless of what play looks like, just playing and just being comfortable around other people outside of their home or out. A lot of kiddos get very used to working with adults. So there's so much power in, we call it peer scaffolding, but just being around peers their own age.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that transition. 28, you said 28 transition within the first 30 minutes?
Yeah. So, and
Wow.
I'm not saying like from
On
one
on average, right.
but like just think little transitions from the moment a kid walks in the door. It could be a transition from one math problem to the next. There's just so many different things and different demands placed.
Well, so let's talk about that. So if a child is going through, let's just use that number, 28 transition for every 30 minutes, which I guess I never even thought about it too. That's almost a lot for anybody. Um, what does Starlight do to
Yeah.
help those transitions be a little bit is I don't know how you want to say that, like better, calming?
So we
How would you
don't
say that?
expect mastery on day one, which is some
Okay.
classrooms do. We break it down. We are very intentional and we follow their lead. So say a kiddo is attending circle time and he gets dysregulated after like 30 seconds. Totally fine. Starlight can modify his schedule and have a one-to-one with him in the clinic, and then they can systematically increase that time to
Okay.
where he can use that functional language or just remove himself and then come back when he's ready. Does that make
Okay.
sense? And just building up on that time and really just exposing them to transitions. Transitions are hard. Like, think about when you get ready in the morning. Like, there's so many little things. Breaking it down with a visual schedule and even just checking off little things so that they can improve on that executive functioning too is helpful.
Okay, well, let's take that example. So the class is going to circle time, which is a part of the programs at Starlight. Child has an outburst, for whatever reason. He or she might be struggling with that.
Yeah.
Then for that transition, kind of walk me through that process a little bit better. So child has an outburst. How do you help him or her transition and work to the future to where it's a little bit more comfortable for those transitions?
Yeah, again, working on those preventative strategies of like giving
Okay.
a warning, hey, in 5 minutes, just so it's not that quick shift. It's almost like we're going to ease into it. You might pair it with a visual timer. Some kiddos love it, some don't. But just giving that auditory, okay, well, in about 2 more minutes, I go all the way down to 10 seconds sometimes. And then I do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's not just, okay, we're done with this, let's move on. It's okay, it's coming. And
So
then
you really have to think about your transition. So given that preparation before that transition happens, like you said, preventative is really important. Wow.
definitely just think about like if your alarm didn't go off in the morning, how dysregulated you would be, you know?
I just would
We
keep
snooze.
sleeping.
Yeah. But then you're like, oh, well, now I don't have time to do my hair. Well, I have to worry about that, but you're all
I'm losing mine a little bit, but I don't have to worry about it too
done
much. But
there.
yes, it throws me off. Now I usually take it takes 5 seconds to get my hair done. Now it's just 1 second.
Right,
So
see, you can't snooze for 4 seconds then.
well, wow. So there really is a lot more planning. And let's kind of back up. We did jump the gun. I'm sorry. I know we just dove right in. Can you please explain what is the difference between an early learning center and a traditional preschool kindergarten that you would see in a public school, charter school, or whatnot? What is the big difference?
Yeah, so specific to Starlight, we do have RBTs in our classroom, registered behavior technicians.
Now, what do they do?
Yeah, they support the students on more through an applied behavior analysis or ABA lens.
Okay.
Their sole focus is to be with those kiddos and supporting them through any type of behavior. And that when we say behavior, it's not always the dysregulation, it's good behavior too. Like, I always say they're like paraprofessionals with superhero capes because they're basically other teachers in the classroom because at any given time they could truly run the classroom. And so having that level of support where they've received a minimum of 40 hours of training, and then they have to continue getting those education credits so that they can keep their license. And so they're always in the know of any updated research, and they truly it was a game changer having registered behavior techs in the class.
Well, so you're saying that with a early learning center, they have these RBTs
Well, ours did.
working with them. Okay, ours. Okay, well, Starlight does.
Yes.
Starlight does. But you wouldn't see that in a normal preschool setting.
No, not unless it's like organized by a family is what I've seen. In public school, I did not have, I had one paraprofessional for 16 children for special ed. And so you can only imagine, we can only do so much. And so
Yeah.
it's really nice to know that the teacher can continue teaching. And going back to that, if we ever did experience any dysregulation with our students, it was really nice to know that the show goes on and there's still a support there. Like, I didn't have to stop instruction. I always followed up, but it was really nice because our RBTs had such a good relationship with the kiddos that they would just support them through that, and the show just kept going. And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, it was a cool time.
That's amazing. So it sounds like Starlight's really exciting. A lot of listeners would want to know, kind of going back to early childhood. So Starlight works with kids from birth, almost 3. For parents that have younger children, and they may or may not think that he or she might have autism or might have signs. What are some advice you would give them, or what are some early signs that you're like, you know what, here's some things that I've seen through my experience, here's some other ones that may or may not. What would you tell a parent?
Yeah, I've had many parents over my time in the classroom and community come to me and ask, hey, do you think my kid has autism? The first thing I'll always tell them is I'm not a diagnosing doctor. Go talk to your pediatrician. Of course, I'm here to listen. But as someone who did screen for early intervention things that we look at across the board for if you ever have a concern with your kiddo. I got a lot of families coming to me if they're a late talker, they have a really hard time transitioning, sensory differences. And it's important to note that while some kiddos might have sensory differences, that doesn't always mean autism. And so what I always looked for was language differences, social differences, and sensory differences. If I saw any of those kind of things, I would just kind of take a bigger magnifying glass and kind of reach out to my team and say, hey, I got some eyes on this. How can we support this kiddo and their family? We definitely, I'll get a little technical. So when your kiddo is getting evaluated, specifically in like a public school setting, they look at speech and language, cognitive, social, emotional, adaptive, and physical. So those are the 5 domains that they typically look at. And physical includes fine motor and gross motor. And so we're looking at things from all different lenses, but we cannot diagnose for autism. Right. And so it's important to definitely follow up with your pediatrician, and they are a great resource to finding diagnostic pediatricians.
Gotcha. So there could be signs, but 1 or 2 signs doesn't really mean, in your best judgment, doesn't really mean that you're autistic.
Right. So, and if they are autistic, it can present so differently for so many individuals. A lot of research has come up that like a lot of people say, oh, my kid's not making eye contact. There are autistic individuals that make great eye contact. So it's been really cool to see people's lived experiences as well as the research kind of grow as more information becomes available. And I mean, if you've met one kid with autism, you've met one kid with autism. They truly all have different needs, and that's okay. And it's also important to note that it presents differently in boys and girls. Girls get diagnosed later oftentimes because their autism presents differently, or their neurodivergence presents differently.
Well, and then, so kind of going back, so some early signs could be a late talker. So talking about that, what would be, how do you know when late is late for talking?
So there's developmental milestones. And those can be, I don't have them off the top of my head, but I definitely was really hyper focused on them with my own kiddo because he had a speech delay. And it's really easy to go on Dr. Google or social media, and that actually did more harm than good for me personally. Because as a mom, you want to help your baby. You want to be like, oh, well, if he is struggling here, how can I help him? And so knowing my background, I was hyper aware of it. And it's easy to be like, oh, in your head, like listing all the things that it's almost like just taking a step back. You're going to love your baby no matter what the diagnostic doctor says, no matter what the teacher says, and just supporting them in whatever way that is.
Well, and that's good advice. We hear some, maybe late talker. You talked about having a difficult time with transitions. Might be sensitive to a few sensory objects. Language socially might not be as engaging as other kids. But each one of these factors doesn't mean that they're autistic, so to speak. It could be. We just need to kind of watch.
There's sensory processing disorder that it typically goes hand in hand with autism, but it can stand alone. There's ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity, and that's why I say always talk to your pediatrician, because it's called the DSM-5, and so there's specific criteria that they're looking at in order to diagnose their child. Typically, I just get the kiddos once they have their diagnosis, and I get to support.
And then that's when you get to go.
Yeah. So then I get to pull out the tools in my tool belt and always learn new ones, because every year is a new year. I will never claim that I have all the answers, but that's what's so fun about this job is we're learning every day, and every day is a new day, truly.
Well, and I think that's kind of the whole purpose of the Polaris Connection. Like, we're trying to learn this as much as we can. if you're not watching, you can tell that I have all my notes here. I'm learning as much as anybody else because we want to be at our best, right? We really want to understand. I call it tools in the tool belt. The more tools I have, the better I can to help these kids. So kind of going back, the way I understood what you said, Haley, is if you have a concern as a parent, you know your child better than anybody else. Be aware, look. If you have
With
concerns,
caution.
go look with caution. There, I like that.
Really easy to fall down the rabbit hole of social media.
I think we're all guilty of that. Google somehow is our best doctor
Yes.
and our worst doctor. So speak to their pediatrician. Is there any specific pediatrician that you would recommend? Like if I had my pediatrician, does any pediatrician, can they work on diagnosing, or do I have to go to a special one?
Some pediatricians, the pediatrician that I have from my kiddos has a referral, typically
Oh,
because
okay.
it's a specialist. And from what I understand, it is separate than your checkup pediatrician kind of thing, your family pediatrician. It is a diagnosing pediatrician that does the autism diagnosis.
Do you ever run into a diagnosis to where they might have got it wrong? That you're like,
No,
wow, I don't know how they did this. Or is it, I guess as a parent, do I need to trust that diagnosis, or do I need to get a second opinion?
I think that depends on the individual. As a teacher, I can say that regardless of the diagnosis, I'm going to follow that kiddo's lead and kind of
Okay.
see what helps them learn best and what helps them feel safe, regardless of the diagnosis. So, but if you ever have any concerns of, oh, maybe you might have missed this, my favorite parents are the ones that I know they think that they're bugging their teacher, but that's my favorite kind of parent because I'm like, this is why I'm here. Like, I want to support you. Like, you're never going to bother me when it comes to the well-being of your child. And so bug your doctor. Bug that, like, ask all the questions. Come with a prepared list of questions so you can write it down. Create a binder, create a binder of all the paperwork adds up so fast that just like
I
keeping it
bet.
in one singular space. Think about like when your kiddo's in 6th grade, how many, you're gonna have like a book this big. Um,
But that
but
also helps. Like I've heard that it's good for parents to take notes with
yeah,
their child to know what regulates, what's their stimulus, like what is their triggers, and what happened, like what preventative, like what happened before, what led to the outburst, and then what are some things that I did that worked and didn't work. So it's
yeah,
I've known parents having huge notebooks of
I
writing
love
down
that.
data, you
Well, then
know.
we're not recreating the wheel. Like if they know their kids best, they're the they're best advocate for their child.
Yeah.
That's what we are as parents. We are advocating for our babies. Well, young adults, kids, all the things. I have babies. So, but yeah, we are advocating for them so that you've already learned what helps your baby. Why not share that with your kid's teacher, And all
Well,
the
and I,
work with them.
you hear the whole mother intuition, right? If
Hey,
you
dads have it
feel
too.
like it, well, and dads have it too. Dad's intuition. If you see something, if you feel like it's not right, it sounds like, Haley, as an educator, you want parents to come up and ask you questions. Hey, this doesn't seem right to me, or here I have this notebook. Let me just share my notes with you about what I've learned with my child, and you would welcome that as an educator.
I would welcome that, but also there's a balance of trusting that the teacher is. No one goes into education wanting to not help learners, and so just knowing like giving all that information up front, but also allowing the kiddo to show someone novel a different side of them, because oftentimes I hear, oh, they were so good at school all day, they came home and it was not that. And so it's almost like trusting your kiddo too to show them what they know and show them the important skills that parents have taught up until that point. And
Okay.
for littles, obviously it's a lot of parent input. because there's limited language. So I would expect a lot more information. Our intake is much more extensive for littles that have limited language. But then you have the kiddos that come in and say, I want my sandwich cut exactly this way, and you're set. Like, we didn't cut his sandwich wrong, you know? And so it's so different.
I suffer from the same problem too. You better cut my sandwich right.
Yes.
Well, that's really awesome information, Haley. So once a child gets their autistic, once a parent meets with their pediatrician and they go to the specialist and they get their diagnosis. So once we get to that point, and I have a diagnosis, my child is now officially diagnosed with autism. Mm-hmm. What do I do?
That's a great question. And I don't know why, but I always expected there to be like a pamphlet of, here's my next steps. And from what I've had, an overwhelming, no, that's not the case. And so one of our missions at Starlight is truly just informing families those next steps. There's so many resources available specific to Arizona for kiddos with autism. And so truly getting them an IEP is a really good step. Just if you're choosing the public school route, it will also make other funding sources a little more smooth.
Okay.
So like the Empowerment Scholarship, ESA. You don't need, I guess, an IEP anymore. You used to back in the day, but it does definitely help with that process if you have that as from an early age.
Okay.
Definitely asking the diagnosing doctor, hey, what other therapy should I be looking into? Some kiddos have a speech delay, so hey, what are some speech therapists that you trust and would recommend? And I will say, going back to like social media, there's some great social media platforms out there where parents have done the walk. And there's so many amazing parents that don't want newly diagnosed families to go through what they went through. And so they have the most amazing connections. They have the most amazing referrals. Finding a great therapist can be really tricky depending on pairing. And so if you can skip that whole step, time is of the essence when they're little. And so if you can like go to someone that someone referred, you're getting a kickstart in the right direction.
Well, and before I ask my following question, if I feel like my child may or may not be autistic, when is it too early for a diagnosis, or when's it too late, or kind of when's the sweet spot?
Yeah, I mean, I am big on early intervention. So I feel the earlier you know, the more we can do from an earlier stage.
So, I mean, would it be like age 1 or 2 or?
I've seen as young as 18 months. I know that it's changed over time. I always get them when they're 3 years old when I was in public education. But I know ABA Services has a different avenue to get services in a different age timeline. And then as far as, there's a lot of people that have been late diagnosed, and I've read just their own personal experiences that had they known, they wouldn't have felt so isolated. It has been an overwhelming thing that I've read, and specific to ADHD, there's a lot that I've read that they wish they knew that they had that in school, because it made sense. They knew it. They know in their bodies that something is a little different. It's not wrong, it's just different. And it's really easy for a child to feel like, oh, I'm doing this different. And I don't know, knowing that they didn't have to live with that or had some strategies to get through that might have eliminated some dysregulation.
Well, and I think just trying to find that good support group to help you. You know, working at Polaris Academy, I've noticed that when parents, especially new to autism, which we get a lot of, they look at us kind of like a hospital, like help, like fix my child. And there's really no fixing because they're not broken.
There's nothing to fix,
There's nothing to fix. So we were able to, bring out what they're already good at, and we just make it better.
Yes. And
So
oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I
There
didn't want
have
to stop
been,
your thought.
I want to touch a little bit on just like a later diagnose. So not littles, but like even first or second. There is a level of guilt as a mom or as a parent of, "Ugh, I wish I got it sooner, or what I wish I could have done." And it's so, so important to give yourself grace. It, that whole better late than never, like you are doing what needed to be done, and how amazing that you provided that level of support, that your kiddo, like you didn't really, it was like that teetering, like the where they were functioning in a classroom and sometimes had some issues, but you provided an environment that kept them safe. So I just want to touch that giving yourself grace through a late diagnosis, both the individual and the parent, is so important.
Yes, and because that would feel awful. We're all doing the best we can. We don't know all the right answers all the time, and sometimes I have 6 kids myself, and I always say that the first child, you get a redo on your first child.
Yep.
You're gonna screw them up, and and you're like, I'm so sorry. You have to go on daytime television and say how bad your father was. I'm sorry about that. But you get a redo on your first one, definitely that one. But I love how you said that, Haley. We do need to give each other more grace. We're all doing the very best we can, and just, and that's kind of why we want to put together the Polaris Connection, to
Yes.
show parents, hey, there are resources out there. If you have these questions, here are some great experts to talk to about it, so we can help you. Is there any, in your experience, Haley, because there are a lot of voices in the autism communities, most of them are very, very good. Is there, without naming anybody specifically, is there voices that you're like, hey, parents, please stay away from this. Let's more focus over here. Any kind of guidance you can give parents on that? Like, where should I look as a
Yeah,
parent?
when it comes through with that, it gets tricky because it's their lived experience, and who am I to say it's right or wrong? You
Okay.
know? And you know what? If it doesn't fall in line with my beliefs, it's not something that I personally will follow, but I will never tell a parent what they should and shouldn't follow, because if they connect with any part of it and it's helping them in their journey, I think some sometimes even, yeah, I would never like deter anyone from a page, but we're all adults, you know? They can use their own discretion. If it's making you feel more overwhelmed, maybe just going through and filtering what you're exposing yourself to over and over again. But there is beauty in so many, seeing things from different lenses and
Okay.
being open to things that are not your belief system. At least for me, I actually intentionally follow some things that I'm like, I would never do that, because I'm like, well, why do they think that way? Like, I'm more curious than controversial, I guess, with it, because at the end of the day, I don't feel the need to push anything I believe onto anyone, and so I think it's important for everyone to be open-minded, but definitely checking yourself. It comes down to that understanding how you regulate yourself. Like if it's setting you off and making you feel like mom shame or mom guilt, maybe just take a break. And
Well,
if
because
you're
it sounds like you don't need to do that, right? So if we,
right,
we
we do
look
it
for
enough to
things that are,
ourselves.
I don't need somebody else to tell me how bad I am
Yeah.
as a parent or whatnot. But what are some tips and tricks that you've learned to kind of regulate yourself so
Oh,
that you
that's a
don't feel very
million-dollar question.
overwhelmed?
Yeah, so I like to run.
Okay.
And when I say run, I like to jog. And I don't like to give
And when I
myself,
mean jog, I mean to walk. No,
yes, I love going on walks.
okay.
That's super regulating to me. I like audiobooks, and I like books that have nothing to do with life or like no learning really. It's more, I like listening to a story that kind of gets me out of my own head. And this is, let me tell you, this is all stuff that I've learned in the last year because I've actually had to think about it. Um,
Right, you
and
went on this journey this last year. You were just telling
yes,
us that. Yes.
and taking the break. I have modeled so much this year. Hey, mommy needs a break. Or hey, Miss Palmer needs a
Okay.
break right now. I'll be right back. Or just really leaning on the supports that are around me when I need those breaks. Because obviously, as a mom, you can't just be like, I'm out.
Peace.
I'll be back in a little bit. But just modeling like, hey, mommy needs some space right now. I'll be right there, kind of thing, and not feeling guilty for it.
Well, and I've heard you say a few times, I've worked with you for about the last year or so, that we want the children to regulate themselves, but we as adults need to learn that same lesson of like, hey, I need a break, everybody. Hey, mommy needs some time to herself for the moment. So kind of stepping up and regulating yourself. So that's really important news. Um, Haley, I feel like I can talk to you all day.
Oh, this is fun.
Wealth of information. I hope we can have you back again. One as we kind of wrap up today's episode, I just wanted to ask, what are some like 3 tips that you feel like every parent should know in the early, with early childhood? So something from, I don't know, 2, 3 years old to about 8. What are some like 3 tips that you would want every parent to know what to do with their autistic child? Like,
Yeah.
what
So
would you recommend?
I always, always, always recommend play. And I don't mean like the functional play. I mean play however your kid enjoys playing. And that can mean, hey, my kiddo wants to go to the zoo. Let's pretend it's a zoo here. I am an elephant on the floor kind of thing.
Okay.
Just following their lead. There's so much power in play, and there's no right way to do it. And so really just immersing yourself in their world. Like they're in our world all the time. Let's go into theirs for a little bit and just have no expectation, just be. Another thing is, let me think.
So you're not trying to teach them a certain life skill. You're just,
They're
hey, we're
being
just
taught
having
all
fun.
day long. Just be. Just be with
Okay.
them. Go to the park, and if they want you to play with them, play with them. If they don't, let them just be kids. I feel like
Okay.
there's a lot of expectation, especially on littles, of just please and thank yous. Do it this way. Don't climb up the slide. Let them climb up the slide if no other moms care. You know?
Gotcha.
Um,
Well, sometimes because I've always heard like in the professional world, we're supposed to be outgoing and outspoken, but our education system is like, hey, sit down,
yes.
shut up, say yes, say
Yes,
no, do
and
what
they
you're
get it all
told.
day long. Let them be and just be with them. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's great advice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Another
it's so
thing,
simplistic that it's great.
I know, and as adults, we overthink play so much, and you put 2 kids together, and they're just like it's so natural. Another one is give them autonomy throughout their day. Autonomy just means let them be in control of parts of their day.
Okay.
Well, within reason. Obviously, the safety concerns, they have to put their seatbelts on and stuff. But hey, I have these shoes. I have the pink ones and the blue ones. What do you think? Which one do you want? And they're probably going to say, well, I want the yellow ones. Be flexible and let them have that choice. Just they have so many demands placed naturally throughout their day that just letting them have some say in what they're doing goes such a long way. Like they're little people. They're not just little like people that we tell what to do, but they're their own person. And fostering that from a young age and giving them that choice is very powerful as well.
That's cool. Well, that's amazing, Ailey. I love it. Again, it's really simple advice, but it seems like that's, the most
I want it to be
profound.
things that don't require prep because we don't need any more prep. We need things on the fly as moms and dads.
Yes, we do. But, now after speaking with you, all I want to do is go home and play with my kids. So thank you.
Yes, and just
They're going to say thank you.
I love that.
Well, Haley, thank you so much for your time. We'd love to have you back again. Thank you for being part of the Polaris Connection. If it's okay, we'd love to share your contact information on our podcast. So parents, if you guys have any questions, if it's okay, I'm sure it's okay with Haley, reach out to her. We'll share some additional resources there to help you. And thank you so much, Haley, for
Yes.
being part of our show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.